There is no reason that any president, and frankly, the fact that you decided to do this on a Saturday. Now, the Senate was in this week. The Senate was in. But you decided to do this on a Saturday right before we come back. To me, that is not by happenstance, but that is very intentional. Literally, you could have hollered at us on Monday.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. By now, you've heard about Operation Midnight Hammer, where this past weekend, America targeted and destroyed 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. You've heard the names probably on the news already: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. There was a lot of fallout, not only from the attack itself, but politically here stateside, especially from Democrats who are once again calling for Trump's impeachment, calling for Trump to be removed from office, and all the normal rhetoric that you expect from those on the far left when Donald Trump as president does just about anything. Because we're here talking about political buffoonery, I'm going to try to keep it as light as I can. And when I think about political buffoons, I think about Jasmine Crockett, who you see on the screen right now, who has been wondering this past weekend, why didn't Trump holler at me before launching this operation in Iran? I got to tell you, folks, the self-importance and the arrogance and the audacity of Jasmine Crockett here, to me, is off the charts. And we're going to be discussing some of what she said in a live stream. But before we get to all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really good stuff. Because all that's going to help this little political channel grow thanks to the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, it must feed.
As always, gang, thanks so much for all that you do to help support the channel wherever you are, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Rumble, on X, whether you're checking out clips on Insta, on Getter, on Parler. We're pretty much everywhere now. Thanks so much for tuning in wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Your support means a great deal to me and to the channel. And for all you newbies out there who may have found us somewhere out there on the interwebs, I hope this video earns your subscription, your follow, your like, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you're watching, as we look at Jasmine Crockett's reaction to Operation Midnight Hammer. And as we're listening to this, I want to pay specific attention to not only the venom coming from Jasmine Crockett, but from her ignorance of the law when it comes to when a president can take action such as this.
So long story short, for those of you that are unaware, the mofo that resides in the White House,
excuse me, baking powder,
has unilaterally, in my estimation, declared war. We have a constitution that seemingly does not matter to this man or the people that are supposed to be advising him.
So let's start here. Did President Trump declare war? I've listened to President Trump's statements, the brief remarks he had over the weekend, and I've listened to the remarks of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and he actually specifically said, and I'm going to quote him here, this mission, and here's the quote, was not and has not been about regime change. In the interest of being accurate, I actually did a little further digging, and I realized I made an error. It was the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, that said,
this mission was not and has not been about regime change. The president authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
And now back to the show. This isn't a declaration of war. This was a military strike. This was a single action taken in the interest of the United States to take out these 3 nuclear facilities. And I'm sure you've heard the names on the news the whole time: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. I didn't hear a declaration of war. Now, Jasmine Crockett is certainly entitled to her own opinion. But when you start off with a bad premise like this, an incorrect premise, everything else that flows from that premise is going to be BS. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. So automatically we're stopping here because Jasmine Crockett's impression and her opinion is contrary to the known facts at this time.
I will say that I want to give a shout out to a Republican, Thomas Massey, who made it clear that he wanted to reiterate that the power as relates to war declaration, the power that we derive from the Constitution, it resides with Congress.
And that's certainly true. Congress has the power to formally declare war. Undisputed fact. What is in dispute right now is whether the president declared war. And as I said, there's been no declaration of any war against anybody at this point. In fact, Donald Trump talked about this strike in the context of trying to compel Iran back to the negotiating table when it came to dismantling their nuclear program and to resume sort of normal relations. There's been no normal relations with Iran since before the age, I think in the 1970s, probably since before I was born. We're talking close to 50 years, if not more than 50 years. So I don't see a declaration of war here. There hasn't been a statement of it. Yes, Congress has that power, but no one has asked for Congress to exercise that power, and there's been no discussion about declaring war on everyone. Jasmine Crockett, again, is taking that false assumption that we talked about before and is jumping to the next level and the next level and the next level of assuming what's going on. And all these assumptions built up amount to a pile of crap, really.
And the House is out. Hell, the Senate is out. It is a Saturday right now. So no one's in. We ain't been called in. And let me just explain briefly why I am so heartbroken. It's because I don't think a number of nations should have nuclear weapons. Like, let's just kind of level set on that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want anybody randomly just kind of coming at our throats and being like, yo, like y'all got nukes, so we just don't, like, no.
You're snapping at me?
That is not how you deal with things. And there is a such thing as diplomacy. And we are living in this time in which there is someone who is occupying the White House who does not care about any rules, any norms, any laws, nor the Constitution. And we cannot be a civilized country if there is no law and order.
Okay, so there's a lot to break down there. President Trump has been negotiating.
Flashback.
I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before. If you know that, they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
End of flashback.
Where have you been, Jasmine? Have you been watching what's been going on? Have you not been seeing that there's been missiles going back and forth between Israel and Iran, and how President Trump has been trying to broker a peace?
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
But put that aside. Do you really think someone's going to be able to fly over here and try to take out our nuclear bomb sites, or whatever you want to call them? You really think that's realistic? We've made our strength known to the world for decades. You think some country's going to try to fly over here and bomb us? I mean, there are some that can. I'm sure that China would want to give that a go, maybe, or maybe Russia would want to give that a go. I don't know. But our strength and our position of strength has been a deterrence from that. So while I know that you're concerned about an act of aggression, of destroying a country that is led by religious fanaticism from having nuclear weapons, and your heart breaks over the fact that we had to do that, I think we're all living a little safer because the United States has been leading the charge of the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and has been vigilant against a country like Iran from having that capability.
No, they may claim we law and order, blah, blah, blah. So go get the undocumented people and let's try to ship them out. Let me
Whoa. Wait 1 second here. I thought we were talking about Iran. Congresswoman Crockett is now trying to conflate two issues, trying to turn it into one big narrative against Donald Trump here. Let's see if she can make the connection here.
tell you something. They are not the people that are putting us in harm's way. It is him and his administration that is putting us in harm's way. I am telling you right now that I legitimately have had no intel whatsoever. Zero intel as a sitting member of Congress, regardless of how you feel about me, regardless of my party affiliation.
So now we move on to another topic, and this is going to be all about her. But I just want to take a step back and talk about that brief mixture of argument between keeping America safe from violent illegal immigrants and keeping America safe from Iran having nuclear weapons. Those are two very bad things, according to Jasmine Crockett. But what apparently is even worse is that Jasmine Crockett wasn't told what the president was going to do before he did it.
No one has consulted specifically with me or anybody in my office to give us any information. And so the idea that this dude sitting in the White House, because it didn't come from Congress. So the only person that it could have come from would be him. So this is me making assumptions, and he's talking about he gonna jump on and talk about it after the fact or whatever. We are putting our loved ones as well as those in this country in harm's way.
Let it be known that if you're going to be doing anything out of the White House, to take any action, Mr. President, you got to consult with Jasmine Crockett first. Now, specifically when it comes to what the president did over the weekend, again, Jasmine Crockett does not know history, does not even know the law, even though she's a lawyer. Apparently, she doesn't know about the War Powers Act, which is really known as the War Powers Resolution, but that's how I grew up learning about it. It's a federal law that was passed in 1973 that limited the president's power to commit the United States to armed conflict without congressional approval. This was done in response to the Vietnam War. Now, I'm not that old, but I certainly learned about this in school in the mid-90s. What happened in the Vietnam War was that the president at the time, and there were many presidents that did this, conducted war without a formal declaration of war. As we know, the power to declare war is vested with Congress. So this act was aimed to ensure that both the president and the Congress participated in decisions to deploy U.S. forces into hostilities. Now, part of that War Powers Act includes a reporting requirement. The president must consult with Congress in every possible instance before introducing U.S. armed forces into hostilities. Now, part of this reporting requirement gives the president a little flexibility. The president must report any introduction of troops into hostilities or situations where hostilities are imminent to Congress within 48 hours. Now, here's the thing. There's two instances. Introduction of troops into hostilities or situations where hostilities are imminent. So it's the after and the before. So as long as President Trump consults with Congress on Monday, today, at some point, and lets them know what he knew and what's going on, he's met his responsibility under the War Powers Act. Now, the president can then introduce troops without a declaration of war or specific congressional authorization for 60 days, unless Congress then authorizes an extension of that authority. Many constitutionalists would say that the War Powers Act may be unconstitutional. I'm sure Thomas Massey would, and Jasmine Crockett seemingly would jump on board this train, but that hasn't been tested yet. After all, if the power to authorize military conflict and hostilities, declaring war, is vested in Congress, this act of Congress, this War Powers Resolution, seems to be Congress giving the president some leeway in order to act in the moment and to react properly when there is imminent hostilities coming, or if there's going to be a quick introduction like what was done here with Operation Midnight Hammer. So, Jasmine Crockett, what's the problem with notifying you? By the way, your office, bump that. Ain't got nothing to do with notifying anybody in your office about what's going on. So we're not even there. But what makes you think that the president didn't act lawfully here, just like he was acting lawfully when using the Alien Enemies Act or using other acts of Congress that were passed into law with illegal immigration that he was able to utilize in order to implement his aggressive agenda for illegal immigration reform? You may think it's not law and order, but the law seems to say otherwise.
And I legitimately have no understanding of why or how.
That's the understatement of the year. Now, when we come back, we're going to look at Jasmine Crockett answering some questions in this live stream from people watching, and also just listen to her ignorance and her arrogance, which really is a very dangerous combination when you're dealing with a political buffoon. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
Okay, so the question is, what can Congress do? What are our congressional powers? We're the only ones that should be declaring this. Like, here's my deal. We have engaged in a slippery slope. When he did the Enemy Aliens Act, regardless of how you feel about immigration, there was a permission structure that was created that allowed him to say, you know what, this 1700 law, I'm going to implement it, even though we're not currently in war, which is the only time that it's actually supposed to be implemented.
Now, we've discussed this in previous videos, especially on Behind Enemy Lines with me and my co-host Ross Galloway. I'm going to put a link in the description right about there. See it? You can check out that video for our discussion about the Alien Enemies Act, Congresswoman, not the Enemy Aliens Act. And you can see under what provisions of that act the president was able to use it. Now, keep in mind that the issue is still before SCOTUS as to whether or not that act is constitutional or not, and will allow SCOTUS that moment to decide that. But the law as written was there on the books, regardless of when it was passed, and it seemed like the conditions for that act were met, as you can see in that discussion. But back to this video.
When you start to allow people to use powers, same thing with the tariffs. He said, oh, we're in an economic emergency. Basically, anytime you are in an emergency situation, then it allows the executor, whoever it is, whether it's a mayor, a county executive, or a governor, they are allowed a lot more latitude so that they can move a lot more swiftly because of the emergency situation. And so what he has done is he has declared everything around us an emergency so that he can bypass Congress for everything. But I am telling you that, like, there's nothing that gave him this authority as far as I'm concerned. And the only check on him is to literally kick him out.
Yeah, kind of stupid.
Whew, okay, so there's a lot going on here. Just first point, because this kind of pedantic stuff bothers me. An executor deals with wills. An executive, like a county executive, a mayor, a governor, a president, the head of the executive branch is, I think, what you were talking about there, Congresswoman. Just, we got to get the nomenclature right. Second of all, haven't we said for years that there is a national security emergency at the border? Haven't we said for years that our growing national debt and our deficit every single year, aren't they national emergencies? Are you now saying that the debt and the deficit, those aren't national emergencies? Are you saying that prior to the president coming in, having all these illegal immigrants flood the border wasn't a national emergency? Come on. Let's get real. We've been talking about these things for years, if not decades, being emergencies. It's just now that we have a president that is actually declaring them to be emergencies and treating them like they're emergencies. As for getting him out, you tried an election every which way you could through lawfare and different scandals. There was even assassination attempts to try to get him out. None of it worked. What would be the legal basis for trying to get him out, Congresswoman? What's the solution there? That's a real cop-out answer to a question from one of your constituents. Get him out. How are you going to get him out? Is that a veiled threat? Are you contemplating some sort of legal machinations against some more lawfare? Are you planning impeachment? What exactly is impeachable? Jasmine Crockett is long on rhetoric, but very, very short on information, and probably even shorter on brains. Again, the assumption started with that he needed a declaration of war. It's been garbage in, garbage out all throughout this entire live stream video. And now, for those of you who've been waiting this whole time, here comes your main event, your money shot from Jasmine Crockett.
There is no reason that any president, and frankly, the fact that you decided to do this on a Saturday. Now, the Senate was in this week. The Senate was in. But you decided to do this on a Saturday right before we come back. To me, that is not by happenstance, but that is very intentional on your part.
Oh, we ruined her weekend. Oh, I'm sure the president didn't mean to ruin your weekend, Jasmine. The fact that this was done on a Saturday. How about the fact that this was done without anyone's knowledge and was done with tactical efficiency and supremacy? We don't care about that? You're just complaining that it was done on a Saturday when Congress wasn't in? Stop floating conspiracy theories. This was done to gain tactical advantage. That's what's really important here. Do you think that General Kane, Raising Kane, as the president called him, the chair of the Joint Chiefs, was really giving a shit about your weekend and whether this was done when Congress was in or out? Or do you think that he was considering relevant tactical information? Come on with the self-importance and with the audacity from this buffoon.
There was nothing that happened today. Like, I mean, who knows what kind of propaganda he gonna put out there in the streets or whatever. But the reality is that we are supposed to be briefed on certain things in what we call a skiff, which is, when we walk into a skiff, you can't even have your watch, you can't have your phone, you can't have nothing. And that is where we are supposed to get intel to be able to make decisions and to be made aware of various threats or issues. Literally, you could have hollered at us on Monday.
Jasmine Crockett wanted us to hold off on any sort of military action until Monday. Y'all could have waited till Monday. You could have hollered at us first. Look at the face on the screen right now. This is the face of an unserious buffoon. This is the face of someone that cares nothing about real issues and only cares about political issues. Like many others on the left, Jasmine Crockett believes that there is no truth but power. And because she's out of power, she has to bark at those in power. By doing this and talking in this manner and talking about you should have hollered at us and waited till Monday, Jasmine Crockett has taken her out of the realm of serious politicians who deserve to know confidential information. Frankly, I don't think that she should be in a skiff. She can't even explain what a skiff is. She just knows that that's a place where she's got to take a watch off to get information. Come on, people. When are we all going to wake up as a country and stop electing buffoons like this on both sides of the aisle? They exist on both sides. Don't look at just one side or the other. They're there. They're all there. We have to deal with them in Democratic circles and Republican circles. People like Jasmine Crockett, who's a lawyer, for God's sakes, who we know should be able to think critically based upon her training, should be able to speak and communicate intelligently based upon her training, has chosen to go out to the streets and act in a manner that is maybe popular for her politically, but doesn't give off any sort of semblance of seriousness and grounded behavior that would entitle her to be considered a leader in our country. This temper tantrum that we're seeing right now of you did this on the weekend, why didn't you wait till Monday? You can't act without us. This was a declaration of war. These are all unserious points that she assumes because these assumptions inform her political narrative. And that's all that matters to Jasmine Crockett. Or at least that's just my opinion of Jasmine Crockett. I want to know what you guys think about the woman that you're looking at right now. Tell me what you think in the comments. And as always, like and share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that ding-dang notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. What do you think about this whole situation? Your reaction to Operation Midnight Hammer? If you want to get serious and let's talk seriously about it, I'm certainly here to listen. If you want to go off on Jasmine Crockett's acting a fool here, we can certainly talk about that. Let's discuss what you just saw in this video and any of the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.